Hello guys, this is Cap Coldblood and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About. Today we will be discussing Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which on March 13th, 2018, today, has fully released on digital and DVD and Blu-ray. So I pre-ordered the film and I eagerly waited for it to release at midnight. Unfortunately, the system wasn't quite on par that evening. I waited till 1:30 and then decided to hit the hay because I wasn't going to stay up until 4 a.m. watching a Star Wars film. But I woke up, I ate breakfast, a late breakfast, I sat down, and I just finished Star Wars: The Last Jedi about 20 minutes ago. So let's talk about it this far after release. Now, something I should say is the fan reaction to The Last Jedi has been very mixed. A lot of people have a lot of problems with it. I have a lot of problems with it. Some people dislike the way the story went. I don't like some of the turns it took. But Star Wars: The Last Jedi overall, if you sit down and watch it, is a good film. Rian Johnson's an excellent director. That doesn't always make a good movie. But I do have to say, the film itself is enjoyable. You sit down, you watch it. The Praetorian Guards, the Battle of Crate, the fight over Dakar with the destruction of the First Order Dreadnought, Captain Phasma's death, which is a little unsatisfying, but still. All of these different aspects. Canto Bight is an interesting metaphor. It's not really a good plot device, but it's an interesting metaphor. And the design choices made, the beautiful visuals that the film has, the First Order Supremacy class Star Destroyer that is Snoke's ship. You have the First Order Star Destroyers in the beginning of the film. You have the what's left of the Resistance fleet. It's really a very well put together film visually. It looks very nice, and especially the Battle of Crate looks stunningly beautiful, especially when the TIE Fighters come in for strafing runs. It's just clouds of red smoke and sand and salt, and just beautiful design choice visually. Also, the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren is very interesting. Honestly, when I sat in the theaters for the first time, I was like, okay, it was a good film. When I saw it the second time a few days later, I was like, okay, it's a great film. I love it very much. I like it very much, not love it. I like it. And then watching it upstairs with just my beautiful 45-inch TV, watching the whole of Star Wars: The Last Jedi in one sitting, I was just giggling the whole time. It was a great experience for me, sitting down alone and watching it and just absorbing the film. The music of the film is spectacular. Kylo Ren's theme, the March of the Resistance from the first film. You have the dogfight music with the Millennium Falcon when it's fighting the TIE Fighters on Crate. You have Darth Vader, the reference to Darth Vader in the beginning of the film with that little bit of Imperial March. The Sith theme when Snoke is holding Rey and trying to pull the information of where Skywalker is out of her. The beautiful use of the Force theme right when Luke becomes one with the Force. It's just a wonderful, beautiful fan letter in some ways, and an amazing, risky film in others. It takes a lot of liberties and introduces us to a lot of new things that we've never seen before. For example, Snoke doesn't really throw around his power too much. We see that a force push can be manipulated with the lightsaber that whacks Rey in the back of the head that would probably crack any of our skulls. If you remember in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker are holding each other. They're both pushing back on each other, and eventually opposites, the immovable object meets the unstoppable force, and they both fly backwards. Well, we can see Rey trying to pull the lightsaber. Snoke redirects it pretty easily. All these different new force powers. Astral projection, which is Luke putting himself in another place with his spirit. It's really, really an interesting concept for the Force. We got leaps and bounds, pretty much as far as we got with Return of the Jedi, with Palpatine using Force lightning and being able to sense Luke's presence and see deeply into his mind. Force manipulation. It's just incredible leaps and bounds for Star Wars lore. Not like Canto Bight. We got all these new creatures. And the biggest thing for me is the moral question. The whole moral question of Canto Bight. A lot of people think Canto Bight was pointless. I mean, partially, it's unnecessary. However, the big moral question of Canto Bight is something that has been going on with Star Wars fans for generations now. The original fight was between the Empire and the Rebel Alliance, the Alliance to Restore the Republic. And always there's been a side you can take. You can take the Galactic Empire and have peace at a cost. Or you can have the rebellion and have freedom at a probably much higher cost. I have taken the side of the Empire in the past. I have friends that take the side of the rebellion. I have a very good friend who takes the side of the rebellion, and I jokingly call her rebel scum, and she'll call me Buckethead every now and again. And she loves Han Solo, I love Darth Vader. It's just a clash that we have, an interesting little thing. Even for my 19th birthday, if you can see this, I got a little ring from the Star Wars store. It has the Empire symbols and the rebellion symbols on it. My father got it for me. It's a cherished object of mine. It's my favorite thing to wear. That is Star Wars, because it's the balance. It's yin and yang. And really, the Last Jedi personifies that. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. It's the only way to become what you were meant to be. The Jedi, the Sith, the Rebels, all of it. Let it die. And that moral question is really, really put out there. Live free, don't join. Benicio del Toro's character, DJ, in the film, he is the perfect personification of how I personally feel, and I'm sure a lot of Star Wars fans, feel if they take a step back from their love of the franchise. It's... This guy made his money selling weapons to the good and the bad. There's just no way around it, and really, it's just a beautiful message of how the Star Wars fandom and how reality itself is. There is good, there is bad. There's an amazing amount of correlation between the two. There's a line from the Old Republic novel. I can't quite remember the name at this time, but it's a beautiful book, and in the line is... If you focus, a Jedi starts to focus on the galaxy. In it, he can see points of white and black, light and darkness. But from far enough away, and I quote, it all looks gray. We are all the same. At least we are all connected as people. And we do good things, we do bad things, but we're both equally capable of doing all of them. There's people who will hoard money for themselves and make themselves powerful, and like the people in Canto Bight. And then there are people with selfless sacrifice, like Rose Tico. Trust me, I don't like Rose's character very much, but that self-sacrifice that to save one she loves is the exact opposite of the people in Canto Bight. It's kind of a comparison of the two. DJ is just a guy who's trying to get by and make a little money if he can off of everybody. He has no loyalty. His only loyalty is to himself. And personally, I can kind of respect that. One thing that I noticed when Rose and Finn were being held down by the First Order, they were fine with him helping, as long as they were helping them. But as soon as he helped the First Order, they called him a traitor. They called him a bastard. They called him these terrible names. They hated him. You're a traitor. They blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow. It's just business. And then Finn's like, you're wrong. He's like, maybe I am, maybe I'm right. And that's what scares you. It's just that whole dynamic, that whole moral question posed by The Last Jedi, I think that personally really sells the film for me. I mean, Luke Skywalker is awesome. Like I said, the music is amazing. Hearing TIE fighters streak through the sky with their engines and seeing the ATM-6s try to blast apart Luke Skywalker and that little woof, that little move. Kylo Ren simply losing it because he's human. He's not Darth Vader. He's just a child in a mask. That's another thing I like that The Last Jedi did, is really... Kylo Ren is not Darth Vader. It was put forth that he was a big villain in the first film, but he took off the helmet, he took off the mask, and made himself not to be a big villain. That's how he was portrayed, and I feel like that was personified here. He's no longer thought of, really, as Kylo Ren. All the people I talk to say he's Ben. They call him Ben Solo. A lot of people call him Ben Swallow after that special scene that we all love to make a meme out of. But really, all of these beautiful things come together to make a great film. Now, because I don't want you guys to think I'm a Disney shill. The movie is not perfect. I mean, heck, I have problems with A New Hope. I'm going to have problems with The Last Jedi. But what I will say to round off the good stuff about The Last Jedi is that you have to go in and you have to consciously remember that you don't like the film in order to not genuinely enjoy yourself. The humor, I believe, just is great. I like the humor. There may be a bit too much for some people, but I love it. Star Wars can be funny. It can be hilarious if it wants to be. That shoulder sweep. Who are you, Rey from nowhere? I'm from Jakku. Oh yeah, that is pretty much nowhere. Yeah, says the guy from Tatooine. Little things like that. Tossing the lightsaber over. A lot of people felt cheated about that, but I felt it was hilarious. I loved it. But all of that to say, it's a great idea. It's a great thing to have in a Star Wars film. Can't it be funny? Does everything have to be Order 66 serious? It can be funny. It can be good. It can have variety. Now, let's get to the bad stuff where too much variety can be a problem. First off, Poe Dameron is the perfect soldier, but he thinks with his gun instead of his head. Admiral Amilyn Holdo was correct when saying he's dangerous, he's headstrong. Leia said, you can't just solve every problem by jumping in an X-Wing and blowing stuff up. You know, it's that little bit of self-control. And Poe gets character development. That's another good thing about the film. But Amilyn Holdo's desire to hide the truth about trying to get to Crate, that was probably the most stupid tactical decision that she could possibly make. I mean, I've been part of military RP, at least in Star Wars, for 8 years now. Clone Wars, I was in for 6 years, playing as a clone trooper, most of the time as an officer. And for the Empire, I was a TIE pilot commander, and I was an enforcer for the Imperial Security Bureau. I was a high-ranking guy, and I understood that if commands were not properly communicated, then the entire system fell apart. If the troopers didn't know where to go or what to do, and you knew what to do, you had to tell them, or else they wouldn't believe you. They'd start going off on their own, trying to do what they think is right. And while their motives are correct, like Poe's were in the film, they don't know what they're doing, and they may mess up your master plan. They may mess up your plan for victory, and that's what Amilyn Holdo needed to convey. Even if it was just a line or two, it really needed to be conveyed that there was a plan, and she needed to tell Poe that they were doing something other than continually running. She stood there and quietly watched him for a good part of the film. Get this man off my bridge. That's the only line she said when Poe confronted her about meeting the transports. It made her character look really weak and just not impressive at all. How did she become a Vice Admiral? Well, I guess I'll have to read the comic books to understand, but if somebody can tell me how she got her rank, then please post in the comments below. I'd love to know where that kind of person, who disrespects the officers below her, got her rank, and let alone command of the Resistance fleet. Also, something else about the film, Rose Tico, I'm starting to watch the films more. This is the third time I've seen it. I'm liking the characters in it more. Rose, I'm seeing as a metaphor, not a character I can dislike. She's a metaphor. I think of her as that. I don't really care about her too much. All these secondary characters are great. All these characters that you know the names of, like Snap Wexley. All these extra characters that you get to see glimpses of. These little tiny things are okay. But really, after seeing the film so many times, I'm starting to fall in love with it, like I do with every Star Wars film. I fell in love with A New Hope. I fell in love with Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Phantom Menace I love for a lot of reasons, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, Force Awakens, Rogue One, and now The Last Jedi. I'm starting to whittle out what I like and whittle out what I don't like. I'm starting to see what I like and ignore what I don't like. For Episode 3, the pacing is a little off. I don't really like how quickly the film passes. It's the quickest 2.5 hours of my life that I'll ever spend. For The Last Jedi, it also felt like it was a very quick film. The entire film was restricted to 18 hours of time in real Star Wars time. It doesn't really feel that amazing to sit through that and realize only 18 hours has gone by, whereas like in Episode 3, Episode 4, days pass. It's not that much longer, but still that little bit of pacing was personally a problem for me. But really, The Last Jedi stands up. After 3 months and after all of the fan bashing that I have seen, after all the fan bashing that it will continue to receive, after all the memes and all the jokes and all the Ryan Johnson being blasted by the community, I think that was unfair. The Last Jedi holds. It's a good film. I genuinely enjoy it. And if you don't genuinely enjoy The Last Jedi, I am very sorry. I'm not pitying you. I don't think your opinion is lesser than mine. You're a Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. You're a rebel. I'm a stormtrooper. You're a droid. I'm a clone. It doesn't matter. We are all Star Wars fans, and we are all in this together. This is America for most of you. You can like what you don't like. You can like what you like and dislike what you dislike, and nobody can tell you that your opinion is wrong. So if you don't like The Last Jedi, I'm sorry you don't like it, but the one thing I will say is, it's a Star Wars film. It is the next Star Wars film. If you dislike it to the point where #NotMyStarWars, you want to remove it from canon, that goes too far. It's a Star Wars film, and at the end of the day, we have to accept it for what it is. Carrie Fisher's passing changed the storyline, unfortunately. It would have been great to see Kylo Ren redeemed, and maybe see something between Kylo and Rey, but the films are going to go the way the directors want it to. J.J. Abrams had careful oversight over The Last Jedi. He was an executive producer of the film, so he knew what was happening, and he was okay with Rian Johnson doing what he was doing. So if you really feel that strongly about The Last Jedi, then maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to leave Star Wars if you don't like what it's doing. But if you do truly love Star Wars, then continue to fight. Continue to push for what you believe. If you think there were problems in The Last Jedi, tell people. Be absolutely zealous about it. But don't go to the point where you hurt other people. Something I have to remember at the end of the day, whenever I get into an argument with anyone, we're all Star Wars fans. We all have to work together to make this fandom and this franchise as great as it once was back in the 70s and 80s when it was first introduced and became a worldwide phenomenon. The Last Jedi is a melding of the three generations. We have the original trilogy fans, the prequel fans, and now our children, the sequel trilogy fans. We all have to come together, and we all have to gather around Star Wars and continue to support it like we always have. We can't splinter it this time. Star Wars is feeling like it's becoming something less important. The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens feel different. Rogue One feels different. Solo is coming out soon. Solo, a Star Wars story, at the end of March. We have to band together, and we have to not boycott Star Wars. We have to gather around what we love, not destroying what we hate, but saving what we love. I hate that line. It's stupid for the film concept it was used, but it's true for the Star Wars fandom. A lot of people don't like the line. Like I said, I don't like it, but the line does ring true. We have to save what we love, which is Star Wars, not destroy what we supposedly hate. So that's my very long take on The Last Jedi, and really it's how I view it as part of the fandom. It truly is part of Star Wars now, and I greatly appreciate it. It feels like something that needed to be said, but not everybody wanted to hear it. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Let's Talk About.